Good morning to one and all. Yoga is considered to be a science of inner well being. The references to yoga are numerous and are considered integral as a part of our lifestyle. The Ministry of Ayush of the Government of India is itself constituted with the intention of protecting and promoting the Indian system of medicine that is considered as our contribution to the wellness of the world. A following of a lifestyle that enables us to face the challenges of life with courage is essential for our own prosperity and the prosperity of the community as a whole. The practice of yoga enables us to unite with the cosmos and help us to develop a healthy mind and a healthy body as well. The theme for the International Day of Yoga for the year 2021 is Yoga for Wellness. And the meaning of wellness cannot be confined exclusively to the physical fitness of the body, but it also includes the ability to ensure a happy and sound mind as well. It is with this inspiration, Bangalore Institute of Legal Studies seeks to commemorate the International Day of Yoga for the year 2021. I now call upon Professor Vimala Raj B to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning to each and one of you present here today. As quoted by Yogacharya BKS Iyengar, the founder of Iyengar Yoga, yoga does not change the way we see things. Rather, it transforms the person who sees. Wishing each one of you a happy International Yoga Day. It is a moment of extreme pleasure to welcome everybody present here to attend the special talk on importance of yoga by Dr. A.K. Atre, Treasurer, BHS HES. On behalf of this institution, I humbly welcome Dr. A.K. Atre, Treasurer, BHS HES, for this special talk on importance of yoga. Also would like to offer my regards to Sir for his acceptance and invitation for this special talk. Welcome, Sir. I would like to welcome Professor Preeti S. Desai, Principal Bills, for this special talk, and my humble regards to ma'am for her gracious presence for this gathering. I heartily welcome my dear colleagues and dear students for this special talk on importance of yoga to commemorate the International Yoga Day. I wish this special talk enlightens us in all possible ways. Again, I welcome every one of you to this gathering. Welcome all.
Thank you, ma'am, for those kind words. I now call upon Professor Ramesh to introduce us, Atre sir.
Served as a principal, Vijay College, Vijaya Day College. Sir also served on various academic bodies like Academic Council, Syndicate, Senate in Bangalore University. Sir retired from service in the year 1994. Sir presently serving in the BHS Higher Education Society as a treasurer and the dean of the college. Sir served as NCC officer. Sir also informed the black belt holder in Okinawan Karate-do. By Pandit Shankar Shastri of the Bangalore Sanskrit College. Sir initiated Ayurveda Yoga Kundalini in the year 1959 by Swami Sri Anand Saraswati, Rishikesh, Himalayas. Sir serving as the director, Yoga Jnana Kendra, Bangalore. Sir also serving as a member of the Board of Studies in Yoga, Karnataka University, Dharwad. Sir is advisor and invited speaker at International Yoga Festival, Department of Tourism, Government of Karnataka, Pondicherry. Sir has taught yoga at various places in the India and USA. Last but not the least, Sir is a flute artist in the Hindustani music. Thank you, sir.
I would now humbly call upon our guest of the day, Atre sir, to address the gathering.
Good morning to all of you. I welcome all of you to this special lecture on yoga on this important occasion of the International Yoga Day. As we all know, yoga is a very, very common word today in the society, not only in our country, but throughout the length and breadth of the globe. A simple question comes up as to what has made yoga so popular. While for the past so many centuries, in almost all civilizations, we have physical activities like physical culture, gymnasium, swimming, trekking, wrestling, and whatnot. But in spite of all these various, very essential activities that man has taken part for the past so many centuries, how is it that yoga has captured the hearts of millions and millions of people all over the globe? There are certain very simple things for us to observe with regard to this aspect of yoga. Yoga is a very, very simple form of physical exercise. It does not need lot of equipment for practice. It does not need lot of space for practice. It's a very simple and a humble practice, mainly for the physical body, involving physical actions like stretching, twisting, bending, and so on. So, mainly by virtue of its simplicity and commonness, yoga could easily become the common word as it has become today throughout. But yoga is not merely a set of physical exercises, although yoga definitely begins with physical exercise. To understand yoga as mere physical activities, physical postures, that will not be the correct way of understanding yoga. At least on an occasion like this, the International Yoga Day, let us try to understand the intricacies of yoga. The next point is, yoga is one very special kind of physical activity that also involves proper breathing. Breathing is the first food for any living being to live. Man can live without food, without water for days, but he cannot live without breath. Yoga depends, all the benefits that yoga has given today by its practice, most of the benefits are mainly because of the breathing process that is involved in the practice of the yogic postures, which are called asanas. Asana is basically a static posture. It is not a dynamic posture. Although before we go to a particular asana, we do perform certain physical movements, but once we go to a particular posture or a particular asana, it becomes static or stable. That is why Patanjali Maharshi has said, Stiram Sukham Asanam. The asana that we perform must be stiram, stable. Sukham means comfortable. That is one speciality of yoga. The other speciality is, as I already said, the breathing that is associated with the practice of the asanas. Why so much of importance is given to breathing? Why not such an equal importance given to food, for relaxation, for sleep, for so many other things? Because breath or the air that we inhale and exhale has got as its essence a very important, powerful force called the universal vitality. It is also called prana, prana shakti. Prana means life, jiva. But this energy that is there everywhere in the universe is the one that is present, though in a small measure, in the air that we breathe in. As compared to the robust physical activities where breathing is very fast, breathing is very dynamic, in yoga, breathing is very gentle. It is very slow, but it is elongated. By elongated breathing, we will be able to draw larger amount of this universal vital force. On the other hand, in the case of robust breathing, we will be inhaling lot of air. Air contains, as we know, not merely oxygen, it contains nitrogen and so many other elements. For yoga, many things are not necessary. What is necessary is only the prana or the essence. That essence is, again, I'm telling, it is in a very small quantity. For example, in the night when we are enjoying deep sleep, not interrupted sleep, when we are in a state of deep sleep, the breath is very shallow. It is sufficiently slow. But throughout the night when we are in deep sleep, we don't die. On the other hand, we get lot of energy. It is a kind of relaxation. It is a kind of toning up ourselves after the day's work. That is the beauty, that is the immense power that is inherent in what I said earlier, the prana, which becomes available to the human system through slow and elongated breathing. This is one aspect. The other aspect is, if the physical postures called asanas are interwoven with proper breathing. Proper breathing means for every movement in an asana, there is a particular way of either breathe in or breathe out or holding the breath. This is a secret of yoga. Many people think that merely practicing an asana is going to give them the benefit of either curing a disease or some disease-like condition or whatever. It is not like that. How much of the vital force of the Brahmanda or of the universe, our system is able to absorb through the practice of the yogic exercises called asanas, that is going to matter much. This is one aspect. Another aspect of our life is body is always a grosser matter. There is another thing, another part of matter which is a subtler part of matter that is called mind. Mind is also made of matter. Body is of course made of matter. Between these two forms of matter, body is grosser matter, mind is subtler matter. We all know the problems that we are facing by virtue of the mind. Mind is always in a state of fluctuation. Mind keeps on changing. Mind scatters. It is not very easy to focus the mind on one object. Mind concentration is quite difficult. So therefore, something must be done, or something is being done by yoga to stop this mind scattered. That is why Patanjali has said, he has given a definition of yoga. Yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Chitta vritti, vritti means modification. The mind that we have in the morning may not be there in the evening. Or what we decide today, tomorrow changes. That is an example of mind modification. The most important aspect, the most important contribution of yoga for our well-being is this chitta vritti nirodhatva. In what way breath and mind are related? There are many slokas in Yoga Shastra. They say that mind and breath are interrelated. There is one sloka, for example. Manasya pranaha pranasya manaha yeto viharataha. Mana means mind. Prana means vital force. Breath. Mind and breath. Yeto. These two, viharataha, they are playing like two children. One child running, other child running after them. One child in the game stops, the other child also stops. Therefore, what the breath does, the mind does, and conversely. This shloka is a very important shloka. There is another very important shloka which substantiates this argument. Chale vate chale chittam, nishtale nishtalam bhave. Chale means movement. Chale vate, vate means breath. Chale vate chale chittam. As the breath moves, chittam, the mind also. Nishtalam, it does not move. So when you hold the breath in yoga, which is called kumbhaka, you are also holding the mind from distraction. That is why even in normal life, when we focus on any work that we have undertaken, a very serious work, unknowingly we stop the breath. If you want to lift a bucket of water, then unknowingly you hold the breath and you will be able to lift it quite easily. There are so many examples like this. So that is the intimate relationship between breath and mind. This particular aspect of yoga is not there in any other system. This is a mainstay in yoga practice. That is why in yoga, importance is given on an equal measure to breath manipulation. It is called pranayama. On the one hand, one meaning is pranasya ayama, stretch, is pranasya ayama iti pranayama. Another definition is pranasya ayama. Yama means control. Breath control, breath stretching. Now let us try to understand the vital part played by breath in making yoga the most useful vehicle for controlling the mind. Now, with all these things, if pranayama is going to control the mind, why not we do pranayama itself? Why we should do those physical exercises, the asanas? Some asanas are not very easy. Even to look at certain postures, we feel something very, very fearful. What is the reason for this? It is because breath control is not very easy. In order to control breath, the body, physical body must be sufficiently strong. The heart and the lungs and the various associated systems in the body, they must be sufficiently strong, otherwise pranayama will not be merely not useful, it is also going to be very dangerous. Pranayama, while it is being held as a very useful exercise for mind control, it also has got the elements of danger. One danger is trying to do pranayama without sufficient yoga or asana practice. Another thing is to combine the practice of asanas along with the breath. Then both the body, namely the asana, and the prana, namely the breath, they come into a kind of interaction and they get interwoven into a very, very powerful force. That is one of the very important aspects of yoga. So, this is about asanas and pranayama. Is that all about yoga or anything else is there? What is the aim of yoga? Definitely, at the lowest level, health, strength, fitness, that is what is desired by most of us. Yoga says that itself is not enough. We should go higher up. There's one more thing called your consciousness, awareness. How are you going to achieve that? Patanjali Mahasi says one thing very, very interesting and astonishing. The definition of pranayama as given by Patanjali Maharshi is Shwasa prashwasa yor gatir vicheda pranayama. Shwasa, prashwasa, inhale, exhale. Vicheda, don't do it. That is pranayama. How is it possible? Which means, according to Patanjali, in order to do pranayama, I should not inhale, I should not exhale. How long I can do it? I can do it only for some time. That is called holding the breath, or kumbhaka in yoga. Why he has given that definition? It is because after the mind, after controlling the mind, there is what is called awareness or consciousness, aware of where you are living, are you aware of where you are going, why you are doing all these things, why is this life, and so on and so forth. So many questions will come to our mind at some stage or other in life. Having lived for a long time, a person may feel, what is the use of my life? What have I achieved? Except some position, money, power, this, that, and even good health. What else I have achieved? That is a big question. Yoga answers that question. Patanjali Maharshi says, Yama, Niyama, do's and don'ts, asana, physical postures, pranayama. Then he says, Pratyahara, You should not bother about what is disturbing you. For a small thing, if somebody makes noise, we lose our temper because we say we will not be able to concentrate. Pratyahara says that should not bother. Whatever be the circumstances, you should not bother. Whatever be the pressures on you, you should not bother. How is it possible? It is possible when you have got a particular aim in life. The aim in life is to know yourself. That is called self-realization. To understand ourselves, to understand our periphery, to understand our circumstances, to understand so many things, to understand our future. All these things are involved in the pursuit of the yoga. That is also called in philosophical terms the identity of the Atman and the Paramatman. Paramatman, the universal Godhead, has created this universe and I'm a small speck for a small part of this. But Yoga Shastra says, though you are the smallest part of the universe, you have got the inherent power, the potential power to go to the highest and become one with that. Of course, that is a philosophical aspect. Yoga begins from the ordinary physical exercises, goes through the various stages of pranayama and then pratyahara, where you are able to move ahead without bothering about what is giving you the complication of the problem around. For that, the highest level of yoga reached by means of what is called dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Dharana means concentration. Dhyana means meditation. Meditation means to focus mind completely upon one objective, without any interruption, without any break. How long? It may be 2 seconds, it may be few minutes, hours, even days, as our ancestors showed. The Maharshis, it is said in the Puranas, that they were able to meditate. They were able to concentrate for days and days, sometimes even years and years to achieve an objective. When you do this meditation for such a long time, what happens is, you become one with the object. Object is you. You become the object. That is called samadhi. Sama means equal. There is no difference between you and the objective. Therefore, the objective will be yours and you will know everything about the object. That is called samadhi. Therefore, we understand that yoga begins in a humble manner from ordinary physical postures and it ends with what is called samadhi, the highest level of existence. And in samadhi, please understand, there is no breathing. All the breathing, all the ruffian kind of breathing, the breathing gush is only at the ordinary level. When you lose our temper, breathing is very fast, very harsh. When you are in a calm mood, when you are reading some very interesting book, breathing is very gentle. When we are sleeping, breathing is extremely shallow. And so on and so forth. It depends upon the kind of work that we are doing. But at the highest level of samadhi, there is no breathing. There is absolutely no inhalation, no exhalation. Because you become one with the objective. The objective is achieved. And therefore, that is the aim of yoga. But a very important question that anybody would like to ask is, can we do all these things in the present setup? Yoga, as I already said, begins in a very humble manner. It is not that we become or we plan to become a yogi or a great yoga practitioner overnight. It is not like that. Yoga is something which has to be practiced over and over again. What I suggest on this very important occasion is, What I am giving right now is only some essential details about yoga, but this is not yoga practice as it is. Yoga is actually practice. But for practice, certain amount of theoretical knowledge is necessary. But for that, yoga is only a practice. And occasionally there must be certain lectures like this, and they are called yoga satsangas. During yoga satsanga, we understand what we are doing, what we should do, how we are doing, what is happening, and why it is happening like that, and so on and so forth. But basically, yoga is a practice. That is why they say, Atha yoga anushasanam. Atha yoga anushasanam. So talking all those things, let us do yoga first. So on this occasion, I request all the listeners to kindly learn yoga systematically in some standard place. Yoga should be understood, yoga should be learned, and should be practiced only under someone's guidance. If there is guidance, we will not miss the path. So please do that. Make it a point to learn yoga properly and practice yoga every day without fail and enjoy all the benefits. I thank all of you for your humble and patient hearing. Thank you.
Professor Thomas,
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir,
you can-
for inspiring address. We shall open with your permission, ma'am, for this.
just 1 minute, Professor Milita, before going for the formal rendering of the vote of thanks. I must be very grateful to Dr. Atre sir for making this wonderful, inspiring, informative speech for all of us to know what are all the ins and outs of yoga. When I requested sir in the last morning, and at the 11th hour, I have requested, without any hesitation, sir has agreed to give a lecture for all of us. He's so kind enough to immediately give the consent for this program, and we are all very fortunate to hear sir's authoritative and informative and of course experienced a lecture on this particular day and topic. So on behalf of all of us, sir, we are very grateful to you, sir, and on behalf of myself, I would like to thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Professor Vinita, you can carry on.
Ma'am, I have received 3 questions, ma'am. One is from first year student, that is Sudeep. Sir, his question is it necessary to do warm-up exercise before doing any yoga?
Yes. Warm-up exercises are necessary to bring the body to a yogic state, especially blood circulation. It is necessary.
Thank you, sir. Sir, even I have one question. So there is any specific time to do yoga, whether it's morning, evening, any specific time, sir?
This is a very deep level or deep-rooted question for which the answer will also be equally deep-rooted. We are all breathing with one nose. But look at yourself. With one nose, where is the need for 2 nostrils? One nostril would have been enough. But why there are 2 nostrils? Is there any difference between 2 nostrils? Or They are one and the same. They are not the same. They are different. When the air goes inside into the body through the left nostril, it is not the same that happens when the breath goes through the right nostril. The breath nostril inhalation cools down the body. Right nostril inhalation heats up. Left nostril is for the mind, right for the physical part. It's only when we inhale through both the nostrils. Are we doing that every time? Please check. At any one time, the breath will be either through left or right. Normal. You can check up. But at 4 times in a day, they are called Sandhya Kalas. The left and right breathing are identical. They are equal. Breath will be flowing through both the nostrils equally. If yoga is practiced at that time, at the time when both the nostrils are equally breathing, you will get immense benefit. You will be able to acquire the full benefit of yoga. If on the other hand, when you are doing a certain asana, the breath is predominantly left, your mind rules over the body, body becomes sluggish. And conversely, that is why exactly at 4 important periods of time, namely, they are called 4 Sandhya Kalas. One is 45 minutes before sunrise, 45 minutes before sunset, in the afternoon, 12 o'clock, and again night, midnight, 12 o'clock. You can please check up if you have got the patience and time. Though the nostrils will be equally breathing. The great Maharshis have said, if you practice yoga at that time, we are called Sandhya Kalas, you will acquire immense benefits of yoga. Okay? That was answer, I think, your question. But another question I myself pose. Suppose it is not possible to practice yoga at those Sandhya Kalas. Is there any way out? Yes. There are certain yogic postures. If you are breathing through left nostril by going into the particular asana, you can shift it to the right, or you can shift it from right to the left. But that is again artificial. Normally, we should not do that because you are going against nature. It should be avoided as far as possible. That is why most of the yoga practitioners, they get up very early in the morning before sunrise and they practice with lot of benefits. Practicing yoga at 9 o'clock in the morning is not good. Or practicing yoga after taking food is not at all good. If not at the Sandhya Kala period, at least around that. If not exactly 45 minutes before sunrise, at least at sunrise or some 10 minutes, 15 minutes after sunrise, it should be okay. I think I have answered your question.
Thank you, sir. We have one more question from Ramesh, sir. So, sir, question is meditation a part of yoga or should we treat it as a separate doctrine?
Can you repeat? Repeat the question.
Yes, sir. Whether meditation is a part of yoga or should we treat it as separately?
It is a part and parcel. It is the part. Before doing meditation, we should be good in pranayama. Before doing pranayama, we should be good in asanas. Whole yoga is called Ashtanga Yoga. It is integral. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you. One more last question from Ramesh sir itself. So, sir is asking, how do we connect yoga to mental health?
Mental health. Okay. Yoga is basically out and out mental. The physical body is only a means of reaching that level. So therefore, that is why, as I said earlier, yoga chitta vritti, chitta mind. Yoga is for the mind. Okay? I think I have answered your question.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thomas sir, please unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you, sir, for rendering this very elaborate answers to the questions of my participants. Now I call upon Professor Vinuta to confer the vote.
Thank you, Thomas, sir. Good afternoon, one and all present here. Today I'm bestowed with the duty to render the vote of thanks. My heartfelt thanks to Dr. A.K. Athre, sir, Treasurer, BHS HES, sir. Thank you for taking the time of your busy schedule to share your expertise on yoga and by imparting the knowledge to our students on the same. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I now thank our beloved principal, Srimati Preeti S. Desai, for her constant support in organizing this special lecture. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you,
event. Thank you. Thank you so much. Last but not least, I would like to thank our teaching staff and non-teaching staff and to my dear students for attending this event with a special event on the International Day. Thank you so much for attending this special lecture. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
With this, we come to an official end of this program. I hope this awareness on yoga shall help you to improve your standard of living and shall help you to improve your quality of life. Thank you all and have a nice day.